In the winter of 1960, university student Mairin Lang returns home to Montreal for the holidays. While exploring the bookshelves in her family home, she discovers an old diary belonging to her grandfather Murray. Little does she know, this discovery will set her on a path filled with mystery, intrigue, and the wonder of nature.
So writing the Christmas Bird Diary was kind of a new process for me. I've never written kind of a holiday, I don't know if you'd call it a cozy mystery or what, but I was writing more memoir before, but also short stories that were flash fiction, 1,000 words that were little paranormal twists everywhere. And I think this started as an experiment. I had I'm exposed to a lot of these stories that became holiday classics, and I had this idea kicking around for quite a while for the Christmas Bird Diary because of the Christmas bird count and some other things that have happened. Like, for instance, my father once told me that he was up north somewhere and he saw these white birds that were all white with little black bills, and he swears he saw them, and he described them, and the locals, he asked them and they said, oh, sont des oiseaux de neige, which is snowbirds. And he swears he saw them for days on end, and this bird doesn't exist, so that intrigued me. And another time, actually, my father also said he saw a bird that shouldn't be there at somewhere in NDG. That's actually the setting for this book. So kind of these, I combined these strange, impossible birds that my father was claiming to have seen. That was a big inspiration. But also, the Christmas bird count, I wanted to add that into things. And but the holiday aspect, I originally started, it was only going to be a really short story, and it just kept going and going and going, and I added a new thread and an extra mystery, and it just kept growing. And I listened and read some of these Christmas classics, like The Shepherd that they play every year on the CBC on Christmas Eve. I listened to that every year since I was a kid, and I'm thinking, like, how does this become a Christmas classic? How does this become a quintessential Canadian holiday story that everyone must listen to? And so the next time I listened to it, I sort of took a couple notes and just mental notes and sort of these elements that what makes this a Christmas classic. And that was kind of the skeleton that I hung the story on for the Christmas Bird Diary. A lot of the elements of just kind of coziness and casualness and some spectral twist. So it's like anything, it's a stew. It came from a lot of different elements from within me and without me. And I have one person that it has become a Christmas classic to, my friend Joey. He says he reads this story every year around Christmas. So it for one person, it is a Christmas classic. Thanks, Joey. A Montreal winter has a force or a presence or something. So it is a kind of a character in itself, a Montreal winter. I wanted to show that to people that maybe have never experienced it, or if you have experienced it, there's things you'll notice, like the frost on the window, or when you're on the bus in the winter, and kind of the condensation that forms, or the smell of drying woolen mittens. But also, the coziness, the season was also mixed in with that too, kind of the holiday season, kind of this vague coziness, and kind of family, and and the early 60s, that was a time when my parents were growing up, so I heard a lot about that time, that simpler time, and so I was kind of going to my parents and asking them kind of, what was this thing called before it was the metro station, or where could you go get a cup of coffee and a donut on Monkland Street in the early 60s or whatever. So there was definitely an effort, I guess, on my part to really add a lot of details about Montreal, NDG, in the early 60s, in winter, in holiday times. And another part of winter in Montreal for me, I'm a bird guy, so there's a lot less birds in Montreal in the winter, so I think the ones that do stick around are kind of a bit more special and hardy, and there's a cardinal, or there's whatever kind of bird that is strong enough and hardy enough to stay here through Montreal's winter. And another inspiration, obviously, was the Christmas bird count, which is this sort of tradition that birders have. It's been going on for about 100 years, where instead of they used to shoot birds on Christmas about 100 years ago and earlier, and sort of tally them up and who could shoot more birds. But then someone had the pretty clever idea of just saying, hey, let's count birds on Christmas and see who can tally more birds on a list. So that was also a big inspiration for this. And I've done Christmas bird counts in Montreal, and they can be brutal because you get a day. You don't get to choose the day, you get a day, and it can be, I've done with my friend Dan, I've done a Christmas bird count where it was -20, but it probably felt like -40 with the wind, and so you're really questioning your life decisions and your hobby at that point. And there's a bit of that too, some of that inclement weather, and the main character's out there and she's trying to bird, but it's a really nasty winter. So yeah.
Mairin's exploration of her grandfather's bird diary reveals more than just sightings of elusive snowbirds. She discovers a connection to rare Arctic flora, a failed World's Fair scheme, and the possibility of academic theft. Her journey leads her to the mysterious grounds of Villa Maria, where the past and present collide in unexpected ways. As Christmas approaches, Mairin must reconcile her grandfather's past with her own future while battling harsh winter conditions and skepticism from the academic world. The Christmas Bird Diary is a tale of perseverance, family legacy, and the magic of discovery, perfect for cozy mystery lovers and nature enthusiasts alike.
Matt and I talked about doing a project together for a long time, where Matt would do the writing and I would do the illustrating. And so it's kind of great that it's finally coming to fruition with the Christmas Bird Diary. It's our first project together. It's the coziest little yarn, and I think it's got all the makings of a Canadian Christmas classic. I've always admired classic book illustration, the painted covers of Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys books that have a kind of realism but messy energy at the same time. And for the black and white interior illustrations, I was going for something equally messy, but maybe drawn with like a crow quill pen, but cheating with an iPad to give it that look of traditional media. But when I was a kid, I used to get covered in India ink trying to crosshatch with a crow quill pen, and so I was trying to bring some of that energy to the black and white illustrations. I'm going to talk a little bit more about birding. Birding is this pastime where you're in the pursuit of something ephemeral, this glimpse of a rare bird, and that can be thrilling in itself. But I think what Matt captures so well in the Christmas Bird Diary is that birding also has all these surprising and unforeseen consequences. It opens doors, it fosters relationships. In the story, it bridges generations between the main character, the protagonist, and her grandfather. And she also solves the mystery by the end of it all through the pursuit of this rare bird. Matt and I have been bird watching since we were little kids. Our moms used to take us to this bird sanctuary on the western tip of Montreal called the Morgan Arboretum, where we feed the chickadees by hand. And we actually became friends when we were in kindergarten, so it's been a long time. And we've led these interesting parallel lives where we both got into artistic pursuits. He became an author, and I got into art and illustration. And we both left Montreal and came back to Montreal. And the thing that's been a constant through all of this has been birds. We still go birding every now and then. And it's kind of a rare friendship that's lasted from age 5 until now, with this through line of birding through the whole thing.
Step into the world of the Christmas Bird Diary, a Canadian Christmas classic in the making. Support our journey to bring this magical tale to life on Indiegogo.